Hey folks, it's D here. So, last night sat down and watched the Royal Rumble, which is our family's favorite pay-per-view of the year. And lo and behold, we started at 5 and several hours later, the show came into an end. And I have to say that was probably one of the most entertaining Royal Rumbles I had ever seen. Now, granted, it wasn't a perfect Royal Rumble, but at the same time, it was very, very entertaining, and that's exactly what you want as an audience, is to be entertained. At no point in time did I feel like the show was dragging on. Maybe a small part, but nothing where I felt that we had sat there for several hours. The time flew by, and when it was over, I looked at my clock and saw that it was after 11. I was like, oh my word, this time flew by. And which is one of the reasons why I really, really enjoyed the Royal Rumble. Now, I'm not going to go super over into detail. You can find plenty of other videos out there, but I just wanted to give my 2 cents on the matches here, and maybe even speculate on how things maybe could have been a little bit better, but this is just one man's opinion. So let's kind of go over the matches here. So starting off, we had in the early show the tag team champions with Bobby Roode and Chad Gable going against Razor from Authors of Pain and Scott Dawson of the Revival. Not exactly sure what led up to that. I've missed the past couple of weeks of wrestling, but I really have to say, when it comes to the tag team division, hopefully WWE will finally get their act together on exactly what they want to do with them, because you have some awesome tag teams out there in Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and things could be just so much more entertaining just off a tag team show alone. And maybe they need to have their own tag team show just, once a week. Who knows? But anyway, Rude and Gable won. I kind of missed that. I was in the middle of doing something around the house. But it was kind of fun. Next one, we had Shinsuke Nakamura against Rusev. And I was rather disappointed that this was on an early show. But when you look at the stacked card for Royal Rumble, you really couldn't push any of the other ones out. So this one kind of drew the short stick. And I really liked how the ending affected later on in the show, and shows how these matches were, intermingling with each other. And it showed a lot of planning here with WWE. So Rusev accidentally hits Lana, and she gets her, ankle hurt, and Shinsuke wins the title back. So that's all good. And then what I thought was an incredibly good match was the Cruiserweight Championship with Buddy Murphy against Kalisto, Akira Tozawa, and Hideo Itami. Oh man, there was some awesome spots there, which I have to say, for the 205 people to be some of the smaller group, Buddy Murphy is, I don't think he's 205. I think he's a little bit bigger. He's a huge man, but those guys were incredibly entertaining and did some awesome spots there. Those are one of the matches that I could kind of watch all day, because those guys really do know how to bring down the house. And I'm kind of vying for maybe WWE to do some type of pay-per-view for the Cruiserweights, because those guys are definitely deserving. Maybe something with the Cruiserweights and NXT, perhaps. Okay, so the show starts, and we have Asuka versus Becky Lynch. Not a bad match. A lot of good spots between Becky and Asuka. Two very, very well good seasoned performers. In the end, Asuka got Becky Lynch to submit, which is all good and fun. Then probably the next match that if I had to switch with the Nakamura and Rusev match, was Shane McMahon and The Miz versus The Bar, and they ended up defeating The Bar. And they had this whole thing with The Miz's dad and all that kind of stuff. That was all sweet and dandy, and like I said, I've missed the past couple of weeks, So maybe there's more to the story there, but I thought they kind of dwelt on that just a little bit too long. But I mean, it was still pretty cool. I'm not trying to put any downer on a guy trying to perform in front of his father, trying to get his attention and his love. I don't know, if he didn't get that when he was younger. So, we as all children want our parents to be approving of us. And I have a feeling that Miz has done quite well for himself for a, undersized, small kid to make it to the WWE and to last as long as he did and to be as successful as he has. So, all shouts out to The Miz for doing what he does. So, then we had a match between Ronda Rousey and Sasha Banks, which was an excellent, excellent match. And this kind of went along the lines of what I said about Ronda Rousey earlier when she first started wrestling for the WWE. And, my way was to have her have matches with everybody and each match get better and better, and then she wins the women's title at WrestleMania. Well, they've already given her the title, so now she's going through all the women. But like I said, each match is getting better and better. She's actually doing more and more wrestling moves, wrestling spots. Some really, really, it shows she's trying, really working hard, doing what she needs to do. Not like some, folks that come in and just kind of half-ass it. She's been putting in her due diligence, which I have to give all credit to Ronda Rousey there. The ending there was kind of questionable as far as how Sasha Banks reacted and, half shook, did not shake her hand and just stood there and walked away and stood there and walked away. I thought that could have been a little bit more clear-cut of what she was trying to accomplish there. Personally, if she didn't like losing, I would have liked to seen her, grab a chair and put the beat down onto Ronda Rousey, just for the fun of it. Do something a little bit fun. Go full heel. Then, which I thought was kind of strange, we went from the Women's Championship match to the Women's Royal Rumble match, 2 women matches in a row. But, you have to do what you got to do. And that was a lot of fun there. We had a lot of folks, SmackDown, Raw, some NXT folks. And it was very, very entertaining. I have to say, probably the least entertaining was the Hornswoggle thing. Now, don't get me wrong, that it was funny for what it was, but it was just kind of one of those things that kind of came out of nowhere. And it's like, okay, that was kind of silly. The whole thing with Selena Vega, who approached the ring wearing a Vega outfit, giving her props from the Street Fighter 2 days. I thought that was a pretty cool costume. And it was pretty good. Now, I have to say that I was when I saw Lana, kind of limping her way up to the ring, I was like, there's no way she's going to make it, to the ring on time. She's moving way too slow. And so, she gets taken out, and it's like, okay, what's going to happen here? And you kind of had a feeling that whoever took her place was gonna win the thing. And that's kind of my biggest gripe about the whole Royal Rumble is, the person who gets taken out, or it seems to be the person that comes around and wins the thing. And so Lana gets taken out, or some type of surprise, happens. So Lana gets taken out, and then later on, after all the women enter and they're fighting, Becky Lynch walks up and says, hey, I'll be the 30th person, and jumps in. And lo and behold, what happens? She goes in and wins. Now, don't get me wrong. I love me some Becky Lynch. I think what she's done over the past couple of months has been phenomenal in regards to her role and her character and her career. She's done some amazing promos, and I really like Becky Lynch. So that would have been really, watching her win was really, really cool. Then we had, after that, kind of I won't say a letdown match, but a very elongated match between Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles. Now, these two guys are some of the best wrestlers, technical wrestlers on the planet, and these guys can go for hours and hours and hours on end. And if I have to give one grade on one match, this match felt like it was way too long. And then, after this match, went on as long as it did, then all of a sudden, I believe it was Eric Rowan from the Bludgeon Brothers kind of comes out and stands there, and then, you know, the referee gets hit, and, you know, Rowan interferes, and Daniel Bryan wins. And kind of led to a lot of questions there, because if Eric Rowan is now doing a singles thing, and, you know, after, you know, now that he's back from injury, then where does that leave the Bludgeon Brothers, and then where does that leave Luke Harper? So that was just kind of an odd pairing there. I think I would have preferred to see maybe someone else we haven't seen in a while join up with Daniel Bryan. You know, there's plenty of other wrestlers back there that we just haven't seen in a while do anything. One comes to mind, Ty Dillinger. You know, maybe Zack Ryder, Heath Slater. Those are plenty of guys out there that could have contributed in their own way to the storyline, and still have Eric Rowan and the Bludgeon Brothers do their thing. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents. And then after that, we have Universal Champion Brock Lesnar and Finn Balor. And I was kind of hoping to see the Demon, but I kind of knew that wasn't going to happen. And when you don't have the Demon going against Brock Lesnar, we kind of knew the outcome from the beginning. But I have to say, this match was actually pretty good, entertaining. Almost gave me a slimmer of hope that Finn Balor was going to do something. But in the end, Brock Lesnar did his thing and won the match. Now, at one moment, I had a slight belief that maybe Brock Lesnar got legitimately hurt when he ran into the table. Maybe he, you know, tweaked the thigh muscle or something in the groin area. But in the end, I still knew that Brock Lesnar was going to win. There's just no way a guy that big is going to let Finn Balor win without some type of interference or something else happening. So, and maybe Finn Balor will win at another time, but it would definitely need to require the Demon or some other fatal four-way or something else. Brock Lesnar is taking out everybody in the WWE, and it only made sense that Finn Balor was going to be just one more person. Then we come to the 30-man Royal Rumble, which I have to say was very, very entertaining. I've been watching the Royal Rumble since the very first one in 1989, where Big John Studd won that one. I did not see the first one. I wasn't into wrestling at the time, but the year after I got introduced into wrestling, I started watching the wrestling shows, and I think my first pay-per-view was the Royal Rumble, and I've enjoyed them ever since. So, number one comes Elias. He does his little shtick, which I have to say, every time Elias talks, I enjoy him more and more. If he could wrestle as well as he does talks, man, he would be even better. But we had a little surprise there. We had Double J, Jeff Jarrett, come out as number 2, and golly, that outfit did not look good on him. He's a little bit older, a little bit bigger. I'm not one to talk. I know exactly how that goes. And, they do their little stick, and, Elias, double turns on him, whatever, and throws him out. It was pretty fun. And then we had our match going on, our Royal Rumble match, and we got to see quite a few people from NXT, surprisingly. We had Johnny Gargano, we had Aleister Black, we had, what I was surprised is we did not get a visit from Velveteen Dream. And what was even stranger, because he did not have a match at TakeOver, but it showed him being there, and he actually was part of the storyline. And so I would have really liked to have seen Velveteen Dream participate in the Royal Rumble. The man's an incredible talent for a young man, and I think he has nothing but the skies and stars ahead of him. And I really would have liked to have seen in the Royal Rumble with all the other NXT guys. But maybe next year, or maybe he'll be called up. But I would have enjoyed seeing him in there. But we had our usuals, and everybody else showed up. We had our Apollo Crews, our Kurt Hawkins, our nothing really old school showing up, but that was perfectly fine. And I have to give a little side note. At my house, we kind of do a little drawing here on who we think is going to win the Royal Rumble, and my son and I had a little wager, and I had picked Drew McIntyre for, lack of anything else going on. I really didn't care who would win. I couldn't figure out particularly who would win. And so my son, who had picked last year's winner, and I forget who it is off the top of my head, he goes, he believes Mr. Rollins, Mr. Kingslayer, is going to win. And I told him there's no way, But he had as good a chance as anybody else. My thoughts was it was going to be somebody new, somebody coming back, like Kevin Owens or Bray Wyatt, somebody, or, somebody returning. I didn't think it was going to be Roman Reigns. It would be too soon. But sure enough, Seth Rollins wins the Royal Rumble match. And I knew it was going to happen the moment he got taken out on the announcer's table. I think it was either Braun Strowman or somebody else picked him up and took him out on the announcer's table. It was what's his face? Bobby Lashley who did it. It was one of the two. My memory is, I'm an old guy. When you get in your 40s, your memory starts to go. It's been only 24 hours. Anyway, he gets taken on the side, and he's laying there, semi-unconscious, and I knew it. That was Seth Rollins calling to win the match. And lo and behold, we go through the motions. And I have to give the props to the WWE. When number 30 came out, R-Truth, I kind of had a feeling something was going to happen because I was like, well, they've been gimmicking this up for a while of R-Truth being number 30. And we all knew he wasn't going to do anything. He wasn't going to win. So what could they do with this here? And sure enough, Nia Jax comes out, puts the beat down on R-Truth, and takes his place. And I was like, you know what? That is really cool. Because not only, did they get somebody from the women's division to be in the men's Royal Rumble match, but a woman who, could really hold her own. And it was actually believable. With the wrestlers that were in there. You had Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, Dolph Ziggler, and a few others. And all those guys were, perfectly able to be handled by Nia Jax. I have to say probably the worst thing they could have done is, put somebody like Alexa Bliss in there who's, 50 pounds soaking wet, and go in there and try and take out the men. It just wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have been believable. It would have been laughable. But in this case, it actually seemed believable. And for just a second, I have to say WWE got me, because I was like, what if Nia Jax won the men's Royal Rumble? That would be awesome. And not just for a women's thing. It would just been really cool to see, just on a story level, because, she could have won it. And then she didn't have to challenge a man. They could have changed the rules saying, she has to challenge a champion for WrestleMania. So, she had already lost, the women's, and she had Royal Rumble, so she wins the men's Royal Rumble, and then she just challenged the women's champion, Ronda Rousey, or whoever she wants, at WrestleMania, and boom, she wins the championship. Easily said and done. And then I thought for a second. And this, now that we know that Seth Rollins' match, this is where I'm going to take a little sidestep and just ponder for a second. And everybody, I know, maybe this will work or not, but just work with me here. Let's just say, so we know at the end of the first Women's Royal Rumble, not last year, the one yesterday, Becky Lynch walks in, she at, number 30 or whatever, and wins the Women's Royal Rumble. So let's say instead of Nia Jax, and you had a handful of wrestlers in the Men's Royal Rumble, maybe 4 or 5 guys, and Becky Lynch walks in, instead of Nia Jax, Becky Lynch walks in the Men's Royal Rumble, and somehow is able to defeat the men. Okay, maybe walks in when there's 2 left or 1 guy left who's celebrating. She walks in, throws him out, and wins the Men's Royal Rumble. Alright, work with me here. So now she's the winner of both men and women's Royal Rumble. Okay, I'm sure the crowd will go nuts. You probably get a few boos here and there. Alright, so now she gets to challenge the champion at WrestleMania. She can, challenge the Raw or SmackDown champions. So she takes it upon herself for WrestleMania to challenge both. Okay? Challenge both Ronda Rousey, okay, and Asuka at WrestleMania in New York City. Okay? And then, let's just say she wins them both at WrestleMania. The first woman to win both championships at WrestleMania. Okay? 2 different matches with 2 different people. That would be awesome. Okay? Becky Lynch would more than deserve it. And I would think that would have been a storyline that people could have gotten behind. It would have been a little hokey. It would have been a little bit far-fetched. But I really think that would have been really, really cool. But anyway, that's not what happened. And who knows? Maybe they can still turn it around. We still have several weeks between now and WrestleMania to where something like that can be pulled off. But just think about it for a second. At Royal Rumble, if she had won both Royal Rumbles, that would have been really, really cool. Anyway, I've talked enough about the Royal Rumble. I enjoyed it. Like I said, it was very entertaining. Time flew by. And I wanted to get your thoughts on the Royal Rumble. Let me know. Post it in the comments below. And if you liked what you heard about my thoughts about the Royal Rumble, hit that like button. And if you want to hear more of my ramblings when it comes to movies, video games, television, or anything else that comes to mind, hit that subscribe button. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.